She was reading in Alma 32 and started crying and basically said, I'm ready, let's join the church. My first contact with the church was my first year in college. I had a classmate who was a member of the church, was not a remarkable person, but he always left a strong impression on me. And 20 years later, I encountered the missionaries. I had gotten a Book of Mormon that was advertised for free in the Reader's Digest, and we had neighbors across the street that seemed to be very happy. I wanted to know what they had. So I got the Book of Mormon and was reading it, and one day while I was at work, missionaries came and knocked on the door, and Dee let them in.
I did not let them in.
Okay.
I did not let them in. And there was not two missionaries, there was one missionary. And I did not know he was a missionary because he did not have a tag. And he had a clipboard. And he said he was doing a survey about Jesus Christ and how important he can be in somebody's life. And he wondered if I believed in Jesus Christ. And I said, of course I do. I was Catholic at the time, and we had a little girl who was 3, and I said, it's very important in our life to teach her about Christ. And I said, and every Friday we have actually a camp-out night where we play games and we watch TV together, and it's very important to us. And he was so good in the role. Now, he just seemed like a really charismatic, nice kid. And he even a couple of times stopped me and said, can I use that at the next house? That is a great answer. That's going to help me with my survey. And he's writing down. Little did I know, pen never touched paper. At the end of our little meeting, again, it's only one person in front of me, this young man. He did not tell me his name or anything. He said, I have a video that you could show for your family get-together every Friday night. Would you be interested in seeing it? It's a story about Christ, and it would help your little girl. And I said, sure. He said, I won't even bother you. I'll put it right on your windowsill, and you just look at it, and then when you're done watching it, give us a call. And I just was so impressed with his attitude. He didn't try to push his way in my home. I never brought him into the house. And again, I never saw anybody else. So he went away, and I called my husband and said this young man came. And he said, were there 2 of them? And I said, no, there was only one. Was he wearing a badge? No, he wasn't wearing a badge. Did you see any bicycles? No, there were no bicycles. I had no idea what he was talking about. But Wilson understood what a missionary would normally look like. Now, obviously, 3 weeks later, and many prayers, and he did bring us the video, and we did watch it, and we turned it over and said, oh, it is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Who knew? Come to find out, he had been at somebody else's house, and they were waiting for that family to come home to feed them. And he decided we should go track somewhere. We shouldn't waste this time. We're missionaries. And instead of going across the street or right next door, he prayed, and right across diagonally, 3 houses down, was our home. And he came.
We took the discussions, and as she said earlier, we agreed that we would only discuss things about the church when the missionaries were there, because I wanted to make my decision, I wanted her to make her decision. So we held fast to that, and we went through the discussions. We were going up to North Texas for a bike ride, and she was reading in Alma 32 and started crying and basically said, I'm ready, let's join the church. And I was happy to hear that.
He'd been ready for a while. He'd finished the Book of Mormon long before me.
And when we got to where we were camping, we were setting up our camper, trying to get a tarp up, and all of a sudden a big cloud came up, wind, so we're dealing with a 20 by 40 foot tarp, and you got 40-mile-an-hour winds, and we just agreed at that moment, we're going to join the church. And
I believe that's when I screamed at the air.
yeah.
I said, Satan, you can do what you want, but we're joining this church. It stopped immediately.
Yeah.
There was no wind. The storm was over. And we knew at that point that was a sign for us to just, this was it. That story led us to the gospel. That story sealed us in this gospel. We have never once needed or wanted for anything since we've joined this church. And there have been plenty of times where money was scarce. But faith and the belief that the gospel is true. Everything we learned from those missionaries, everything the Spirit taught us through that conversion process is true.